Well, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome on behalf of Deputy Convener, Councillor Kelly, and myself to this Falkirk Council Planning Committee. The meeting's been held in Grangemouth Community Education Unit, 6971 Abbots Road, Grangemouth, today, the 14th of June 2023, beginning at 10 AM. In accordance with Section 43 of the Local Government in Scotland Act 2003, it has been directed that this meeting will be conducted in such a manner as to allow a remote attendance by elected members, including myself today. The meeting will be live streamed. First of all, could I maybe go to Mr. Henderson now for apologies?
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies submitted by Councillor Bowes and also Councillor Kerr. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. Before we go into the agenda, we'll just talk about the declaration of interest. And just for clarity, I'll read this out. Members should declare any financial and non-financial interest they have in any item of business at the meeting, identifying the relevant agenda item and the nature of the interest. Have we any declarations of interest at this time?
No.
Don't think there's any intimated, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Convener. None in the room. Thank you, Convener.
Okay. Thank you. Before we go into the agenda proper, which will be item 3 of the minute, I would just like to welcome Councillor Alan Nimmo to a bit of feedback there. I'd just like to a bit of feedback. Anyway, I would just like to welcome Councillor Alan Nimmo to the committee. Councillor Nimmo is taking the place of Councillor Steenbank. At the last committee meeting, Councillor Nimmo was representing his community, and he stated quite clearly that he felt that Grangemouth, because it's such a major investment zone in the area, that there should be representation. He was told at that time that it would be up to himself and his group to sort that out, and this had been done. So we're delighted to welcome Councillor Nimmo back. He's got vast experience in the council, and he's been on the planning committee before, so I look forward to working with him. Could also say at this stage, could also say at this stage that Councillor Steenbank will be a loss. Councillor Steenbank has got a wonderful political future in front of him. He's one of the younger generation, and he's been an absolute star on this committee. And we're really going to miss him. I must say that, and I wish him well in the future. Well, that takes us to item 3, which is the minute of meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 17th of May 2023. It's pages 2 to 8. Will there be any questions arising from the minute? None? Okay, thank you for that. Could also say at this stage, it's nice to see that we have 1 or 2 people that has been absent for a few meetings because of different situations, and would like to welcome them back as well. Councillor Murtagh, obviously, and Councillor Flynn, who I know has been really ill as well, so we're delighted to see you back. That takes us to item 4, which is construction of dwelling house at land to the east of 1 Hillcrest Square, Reading Muirhead, for Cedarwood Development Scotland Limited. It's pages 9 to 19, and the report has been summarised by Julie Seidel-Gregory. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Convener. Please can we look at the plans and photographs for this site just while I'm speaking? This application relates to the construction of a detached dwelling house at land to the east of Hillcrest Square. The application relates to part of an application site which previously benefited from planning permission in principle. Part of the same site is currently under construction to the south of this site, which we'll see in the photographs in a second. This site, together with other individual plots to the south, which some members may recall from previous committees, originally formed a larger housing allocation as part of the previous Falkirk Local Development Plan. The current Local Development Plan 2 shrank the housing allocation to the extent of the Persimmon Homes application site, which is now under construction. This means that this application site and others are now in the countryside, and these are sites that have planning history, in some cases extant planning permission. However, they're no longer supported by the relevant housing in the countryside policies, and this means that we've had to refer them to to Planning Committee for consideration. This application has been assessed in other similar applications which have recently came before Planning Committee. Whilst the application is contrary to the development plan, the planning history provides sufficient justification and weight to the development being approved planning permission in this instance. This is subject to conclusion of a legal agreement and the conditions which are detailed in section 9 of the report. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you very much for that, Julie. I see I've still got some feedback and I apologise for that. I'm going to open it up now to members. Would you like to come in at this stage? I'll just ask Mr. Henderson if there's any hands come up or anybody intimated they would like to come in.
Not at present, Convener. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm quite happy to move the recommendation. It seems simple enough for me, and I'm quite happy to formally move the recommendation contained within the report.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Is there anybody otherwise minded, or can we agree? Agreed. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that. That takes us to item 5 in your agenda this morning. Conversion of offices class 4 to house and multiple occupancy, HMO, at Alexander House Station Road, Grangemouth, AGG for Brava Property Group. It's pages 20 to 30 and the report is by Julie Seidel-Gregory. Before we ask Julie to summarise, we have got a deputation application that's come in for the agent Indercall Gal and Gareth Thompson, the other agent, to be allowed to speak. So we'll just take that decision first. Is everybody quite happy for the agents to allowed to be speaking?
Agreed.
Agreed. That's perfect. Okay, then the report now is by Julie Seidel-Gregory again. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Convener. Again, can we have a look at the photographs and plans for this application if possible? So this application relates to the change of use of an office to a house in multiple occupancy. The application site is located in Grangemouth Town Centre. The photograph that you can see before you at the moment shows the rear of the building. You can see that there are business premises below, surrounding, and you can also see a bit of the Asda car park and forecourt to the rear of that building. The development relates to the first floor of the building. It's a mixed-use building and at Front Station Road. 6 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms, communal kitchen, living area and a laundry room are proposed, which you can see before you just now. No issues are raised by consultees. This includes the Environmental Protection Unit and the Roads Development Unit, who specifically comment on the town centre location and the reduced parking demand for this proposed use as opposed to the current and previous office use. The consultation responses are summarised in section 4 of your report. The public representations to the application are summarised in section 6 of your report. This application is assessed as being in accordance with the development plan. The full policy assessment is detailed at section 7A of your report. Members should note that the development is specifically supported by MPF4, noting themes such as conserving and recycling assets, local living and compact urban growth. There are no material planning considerations which would justify refusing planning permission contrary to the provisions of the development plan in this instance, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you once again, Julie, for your summary. Now an opportunity then, it's been agreed that Indercall Gill, an agent, and also Gareth Thompson, an agent, you have 10 minutes between you, sir, if you'd like to come forward. Just to say, gentlemen, if you could maybe address and tell everybody who you are, so because there's a lot of general public watching this and they'll not know you. So if you could just introduce yourself, who you are and what your designation is. 10 minutes between you. Thank you.
My name's Indercall Gill from Helix Architecture Studio and I'm the agent.
Thank you.
My name's Gareth Thompson. I'm the co-owner of Broward Property Group and I'm also an agent.
Okay, carry on, gentlemen, 10 minutes.
I would just like to review the appraisal of the application. I think the main points were that the fact there's no compatibility issues with the National Planning Framework 4 and either or the local development plan. I think one of the big issues was to do with parking. We've done some research into this and there's over 400 available free public parking spaces within 500 metres of the site. There'd be no more demand for parking caused by the proposals. It's actually also served by the number 2 bus, which takes about 13 minutes to get to the contractor village, which is a kind of core of our business. And they run during shift patterns. And I think the key is the over provision of HMOs in Grangemouth. We've submitted a supporting letter from a suitably qualified person who states that there's not enough this type of accommodation in Grangemouth, and contractors are having to house themselves as far as Stirling, which could potentially impact local housing stock, which would then impact the community, where buy-to-let owners are looking to switch their business model over to housing contractors. I think this is a benefit for both the community and the area in general. The use of the current use of the building isn't really viable anymore with the way changes in working pattern, people work from home, etc. So I think this proposal brings the building back into use in a positive way. Hand over to you, Gareth, if you want to add anything to that.
Hi, I'd just like to add as well, the big thing as well, I noticed on the agenda was going net zero and the climate crisis. We also agree with that. And a big thing as well, when we strip the building back down to bare brick walls, we're going to add insulation. We've also looked at the possibility of adding solar panels on top of the roof as well. We also think that's a perfect opportunity. But the big thing in that is a significant cost, this development, so we'd be kind of looking to get a return on the asset first, and then we'd look to install solar panels on the roof, which I think goes and aligns itself with the Scottish Government to net zero.
Okay, gentlemen, still got 7 minutes left of your time. Are you finished with your summary?
I'd also like to add as well.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add as well, if you look at the document that Interpol sent over, we'd also like to show proof of the sort of standard that we do to our projects too. We've got Sunnyside Avenue, Keppoch Place, and also Henry Street, and that's the sort of standard we'd like to convert this building to as well, to attract managerial clients and provide the best possible accommodation possible.
Okay, thank you. Anything for you, Mr. Gill?
I think it's just mostly open to questions from the panel, and yeah, that's kind of really most of what we're looking to address here.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was short, but you got your points over. It's now an opportunity for members of the elected members of this committee to ask any questions of Mr. Gill or Mr. Thompson.
Convener Councillor Nimmo has his light on.
Councillor Nimmo, sir.
Yep, thanks, Convener. Just a quick question. It was mentioned during the presentation there that there was between 400 and 500 free parking spaces, a few hundred metres property. I wonder if the agent could just provide a bit further information as to where these spaces actually are.
Yeah, you can see in the document that we sent over, and there's a Google Street View map highlighting these places. So we have the Talbot Street car park, which has approximately 75 spaces. They're free. There's another one on Talbot Street, Anfield Place, and there's another 87 spaces there. The Union Road car park has 255 spaces, which are free. There's electric vehicle charging and HGV parking in some circumstance. Bowness Road also has 21 spaces, although they're restricted 8 till 6, Monday to Saturday. With those others, just obviously there's no restrictions on there.
So I'm right in saying, convener, that there's no actual parking spaces allocated with this proposed development. Anybody that's going to be parking at this development is going to have a certain amount of distance to travel to park their vehicle.
I think what we'll do at this stage, Councillor Nimmo, is we'll bring our roads. Is Craig Russell there this morning?
Yes, morning,
Craig,
convener.
would you like to come in and maybe just quantify what the applicant agents had been saying, and then just address the question, that salient point to Councillor Nimmo?
Yeah, thanks, convener. The agent's given a good summary of parking in the area. It's our view on this proposal that the existing building generates a parking requirement that isn't met on the site. The proposed use will generate a parking requirement that won't be met on the site either. The proposed parking requirement is lesser than the existing. There is parking near to the application site at the car parks that the agent has mentioned.
Okay, Councillor Nimmo, you've heard that.
That's fine, convener. I'll take that on board. I'll have further things to say, obviously, in the open debate.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to come in at this stage?
No other intimations of a wish to speak at the moment other than Councillor Redmond, who's on the remote call.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Redmond.
Well, what's happened there? I was just wondering, the building, will it be accessed? I know the drawing was up, but would the building be accessed via the front or the back at the ASDA side?
The building will be accessed via the front.
Via the front, right. That's thing. And then you were talking about obviously the high standards of workmanship at the other streets. I don't think we've really seen the other streets, so I don't know, would you want to maybe expand on what you mean by are you talking about high standards of insulation or a high level of finish in the property, or?
Both.
Both. All right, that's good. And then just a kind of final question, obviously the property is currently an office. If it couldn't be a HMO and it couldn't be hidden, I don't know if there's demand for an office, is there anything else possibly that you could see the property being used for?
We have discussed a potential maybe a CMO, but we just don't really think that it's really viable now, that location for a CMO, especially after COVID-19 and the requirement for office spaces is kind of dipped slightly, but that's just our opinion on that.
What would a CMO be?
It's basically just letting out different office spaces to more than one company.
All right, I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions at this stage?
There are no further questions in the room. Thank you, convener. I don't see any remotely either. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to Craig, just to emphasise the situation and respect to any planning application that comes in for whether residential or it's even office space or that, there is a strict requirement for parking spaces. Did you say in your summary that there wasn't enough parking spaces for this building for this application?
Thanks, convener.
That site.
The point I was trying to make is that the building is there. The building already exists, whether it's an office or an HMO. It has a parking demand at present. It will have a parking demand if it's an HMO. It will have a parking demand, whatever its use is. The parking demand for its current use as office is 8 spaces. The parking demand for its proposed use as an HMO is 6 spaces. So the proposal has a lesser parking demand than the current use. Irrespective of the demand, there's no parking spaces allocated to this proposal. There's a service road to the rear of the building. That isn't adopted. I don't know who manages or maintains that. Vehicles may be able to park on there. That's how parking in that area appears to work at the moment. But no, there is no parking allocated for either the existing or the proposed use.
Thanks for that, Craig. That makes the situation a lot clearer, I think, for everybody. I'm going to go back to Councillor Nimmo now, because obviously Councillor Nimmo called this application in. One of the major concerns Councillor Nimmo had was the parking. Now that you've heard the applicant and you've heard our officer, Councillor Nimmo, what's your thoughts on the issue now?
Thanks very much, convener. I'm still not convinced. The parking is a serious issue, and based on what I've read in the paperwork and what I've heard here today, my position's not changed. There's no on-site parking, nothing whatsoever. And if this was granted, people are going to have to walk a good number of hundreds of metres to park their vehicles. So I've got serious concerns about the prospect of yet another HMO in Grangemouth. As far as I'm concerned, Grangemouth doesn't need another HMO. We currently have 9. Now, I know there's no over-provision element in the local development plan, but we need to draw the line somewhere. I don't think another one is warranted, and I'm happy to move refusal based on what I've read and heard here today.
Okay, you've heard Councillor Nimmo. And what's your reasoning for refusal, Councillor Nimmo? Obviously, we require that.
Okay, it's based on the lack of parking.
Lack of parking. Okay, then, have we got a seconder for Councillor Nimmo? Mr. Henderson, I'm obviously remote, so I don't hear anybody, I don't see anybody. So what's the position?
There are no lights on at the moment in the room, and I don't see any hands up in the remote meeting.
Okay, then that's the situation. As Councillor Nimmo has moved a motion to refuse on the grounds about the lack of parking. He hasn't got a seconder, so I'm still open to the rest of the committee to come in relation to this debate. Is there anybody else who would like to come in?
Convener, I would suggest that perhaps a site visit would be ideal here. I've no idea where it actually is in Grangemouth, and I think I would like to look at it, and we can look at the parking problem if there is one. So I move we go to a site visit.
I'll second that, convener.
Okay, so we've got a motion. We've got a motion that's, Mr. Henderson, just want to clarify the legality. We had a motion originally from Councillor Nimmo to refuse the application based on the grounds of lack of parking. He didn't get a seconder. We now have Councillor Kelly coming in, and he's saying that he would like a site visit. He's moved that and it's been seconded. So can you just clarify for everybody as it's a further motion in relation to this issue?
Thank you, convener. We had a motion by Councillor Nimmo. It wasn't seconded by another councillor, so that wouldn't form a motion. So the motion we have before us is a motion to have a site visit. And if I could maybe clarify on that, is that intended to be a site visit purely to view the physical characteristics of the development site in the area?
Yes.
Unaccompanied?
In that sense, unaccompanied officers would be there to show the site, but it wouldn't constitute, for instance, a hearing on site. It would just be a meeting to view the physical characteristics. So just clarifying that point. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, and thanks for simplifying it for us, Mr. Henderson. Okay, you've heard it. We've got a motion now to go to sites. Is there anybody else like to come in? Is there MD like to come in with any amendment? We've got sites. I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to go to sites. Councillor Redmond.
Just, I think I get a lot of Councillor Nimmo's points, but I think it is important we do a site visit first. So, just a wee thing I think maybe worthwhile adding to it is when we do the site visit, if we go around the car parks and check if there is any restrictions in place. I know there's a big Asda car park at the back, but you know, if there's restrictions there, it might help it would affect the people that would stay in the HMO. So I would just say that we should maybe go around and see the car parks as well. Thank you.
Fine, thank you for that. Okay, is there,
Convener,
we've got a motion. Sorry, Mr
Convener,
Henderson.
apologies. We also have councillor Sinclair who's got his light on.
Thanks, Mr. Councillor Kelly and Mr. Henderson, and thanks, convener. I'm going to back up what Councillor Redmond said there. I think the geography of that particular area of Grangemouth, having had experience of working there for the best part of 6 or 7 years, I know the area quite well. I know all the kind of parking spots that's there. I'm very much aware of the application site itself. I think the benefit of seeing the proximity of the building and the vast available parking around that area would be of benefit to the committee. Given that there is a significant amount of housing there already, and what I would consider to be a lack of parking provision for the buildings and the residents that are already there, I think that would be of significant benefit to the committee to see that.
Thanks for your input. I think we would agree with you. So just to go back where we are, we've got a motion moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by the Provost, to go on a site visit and obviously to look at the car parking that's supposed to be available. Is anybody otherwise minded? We agreed. Agreed. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Nimmo has his hand raised at the moment.
Convener,
Yes, Councillor Nimmo.
Convener, I'm not otherwise minded, but it might just be an idea for the applicant to come back with proposals to satisfy the car parking requirement as part of the development.
Well, the fact is he'll have to come back because this will come back to committee anyway. Once we've done the site visit, it'll come back on the agenda as an item, and that will be an opportunity for any further information by the applicant. Okay, then, so we've all agreed to that. It's an unaccompanied site visit, and other than that, I would like to thank you all for your contributions today. Nice to see the people that have been away and absent due to illness, etc. And best wishes to everybody and a safe journey home. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks, convener.